genuine about his desire to want free speech to return. I am concerned that he doesn't quite understand, or maybe he does but doesn't care, just how powerful his battering ram is when he tweets things like "Free Tommy Robinson," who is, to most people in my country, an extremely insidious individual who should absolutely not be freed right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is all about this tweet.
Why should Tommy not be free?
Well, because he's not the Nelson Mandela freedom fighter that most people in America seem to think he is. He's a convicted football hooligan who beat up a policeman and got convicted of that. He was convicted of passport fraud, trying to get into America, convicted of mortgage fraud, convicted of 2 contempts of court where he nearly wrecked trials involving the gang suspects when they were on trial, nearly literally avoiding justice for the girls in those cases. He's now in prison, nothing to do with the gang scandal, but entirely to do with his defamatory conduct towards a 15-year-old Syrian refugee boy, who he first of all defamed, trying to make him the villain of a video where he'd been bullied. This ended up with the Syrian refugee boy suing him, winning £100,000 in damages and nearly £1 million in costs, and the judge telling Robinson, do not repeat these lies. And then he repeats all the lies in a movie that he produces as a so-called journalist, and he goes to prison for contempt of court, which he knows he's committing. So on every level, you can agree with his message about the gang scandal, where he's been right, like a lot of people, but you can also think he's about the most despicable messenger imaginable.
And maybe people think that you're creating charges just to be right, so nobody listens to him. Maybe you're defaming him in a way, and we need to have the right to be involved. And even if I'm wrong, the fact that I want to call out specific people for specific thing, your response is immediately Islamophobia, then I'm like, if you kind of do it with me, you could have done it with him too. I'm a pattern recognition expert.
So let me explain, not that I said you were wrong, but why we don't believe you. Because how long has it been going on in the UK? These grooming gangs were being covered up. As the Telegraph reported, it was covered up to present the image of successful multiculturalism, where fathers were being threatened with arrest. Then you come...
She says it's not true, but I just found the article on the Telegraph talking about this. Why do you say it's not true without knowing?
Then you come to me and you say all these things about Tommy Robinson, and I tell you this. Maybe you're right. I have no idea. I'm not from the UK. I'm seeing this story that's been bubbling up for some time now about how your country allowed little girls to have their bodies to be... I can't even describe the things that came out in those transcripts.
It's despicable,
because
yeah.
even though we're uncensored. No, despicable is an understatement. It was torturous atrocities.
I agree with you.
For government. So when I see Elon say something like, this country is... the government of this, covering this up, the police covering this up.
He's right.
I'm sorry. And right. So when I see Tommy Robinson in the United States, and again, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm saying we don't believe that the attacks against Tommy are all entirely based on he's a bad guy who did bad things. You may be right. I don't know. I'm not from your country. What I see is your country covered this up. The things that were done to these little girls, I'm going to say it. They put a pump in the ass of a 12-year-old girl to expand it so multiple men could...
Yeah. And from that point on, I don't even want to listen to anything anymore. They're going to be like, hey man, I don't really like this guy, maybe too. Maybe I do like him. But he's pointing at the defense of little girls. If you play defensive with that, as if, wait, but he's a bad guy. I'm like, yeah, maybe. I'm still going to look at what has happening over there. I think most men in UK don't even want to have a daughter in UK.
Country covered that up and then told me Tommy was the bad guy. And so I'm just like, look, man, I don't know. But when I heard that, I said the U.S. should be sanctioning the UK or doing whatever they can to remove all of those from power. I think they deserve prison for covering this up.
I think if you don't mind me saying, I think you're conflating two things, and that's my point. I totally agree with everything you've just said. But I also believe that there is a completely weird misunderstanding of who Tommy Robinson is and what he represents in America, because he's managed to position himself very cleverly as this kind of freedom fighter who's only in prison because he blew the whistle on all this stuff. So they've silenced him by putting him in prison. None of that is true. Just as
Except you did silence everyone else, and I shouldn't say you, sorry, I apologize for that, but your government was actively covering this up. So it creates a plausible scenario when Tommy Robinson is locked up over and over again, and people are like, here's a guy calling out the grooming gangs the government is actively covering up, and now they're imprisoning him. By all means, I don't know about his trials or what happens in
all
your
I would
country.
ask him, look, you're a smart guy. All I would ask is, I just think it would be reasonable for me over here in the UK to say to all my American friends, just go and look at his criminal record, see what he was actually convicted of and why.
I don't think Piers Morgan understand that even if he's right about all the things they said about him in the past, it doesn't change the narrative that when a crime happened for a white man, you condemn him way more, even a post online. But other person from any other gender, ethnic group, let's do that. They're going to be like, we need to think about it. Be careful what you say. We want to hide the information because it might trigger Islamophobia. And I'm like, maybe your defense to not trigger Islamophobia makes your judgment so unequal, you create way more Islamophobia than you think.
Is it fake?
And draw your own conclusions. And then I would say, then hang on,
Nazis
but hang on. Then I would say, go and look at the judge's verdict in the defamation case, where you'll see a very, well, it's actually worth 20 minutes of your time. Because what you'll understand,
this is what Elon Musk wants you all to do. I'm sorry,
all right,
Tim. Tim, like, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story is an expression they use in journalism.
The fact that they pulled 34 charges with beyond the statute of limitations.
There is no evidence that they resisted prosecutions out of political correctness. The person who was the actual chief prosecutor has supported. No, you're well, whatever, Tim.
Well, actually, to be fair, Cara, to be fair, on that point, there is a growing body of thought across the board, actually, that political correctness did contaminate the local... Well, hang on. Let me finish my point. Let me finish. That it did contaminate the thinking of local councillors, of the police, who clearly were corrupt in some cases, of senior government people as well, that there was a general fear that enveloped them all, that they couldn't take the action they felt they should take because the repercussions would be they would be branded a bunch of racists.
I'm not 100% about Tommy, but I'm just isolating the incident, what he's talking about, that I can agree it doesn't make any sense. And he's right on certain things. But the lady on the other side saying there is no political correctness that changes people's way of thinking, I'm like, miss me with that. That's a lie. Suddenly Me Too doesn't exist anymore? Suddenly believe all women doesn't exist anymore? But then, in all this confusion, they decided to create this commercial.
Hello and welcome to Wales. We understand being a refugee isn't easy. They go through so much. Fleeing your country is difficult, but Wales wants to help you feel welcome. The Welsh Refugee Council is here to help you. You can contact them here. Wales is seen as a nation of sanctuary. We welcome anyone and everyone. We recognise your skills and talent. The Welsh Refugee Council offers a lot of support, including ESOL classes, which means English for speakers for other languages. It may be hard to learn our language, so we offer support. Employment. You may feel stressed about employment, but we can help. They help you to apply for bank accounts, child benefits, and they can help with housing. It's very important to have a warm place that you can call home.
I'm going to be honest. If I create a refugee commercial on my island, Curacao, because I want to help people, and I only use little girls, people are gonna call me out, 100%. And on our island, we don't have a child grooming issue. What do you think people are thinking about this in UK?
So it comes back to this. If Piers or anybody else wants to insult Tommy, my response is, so what? I don't know. I don't care. Explain to me why the one guy that was leading rallies to call out to the systemic children was getting locked up and silenced and put in jail. Why weren't you doing it? Why wasn't the UK government doing it? Why weren't the cops doing it? Why was it Tommy Robinson? Oh, he's a con artist? Well, whoop-de-freaking-do. At least we had one con artist, according to you, willing to speak up and inform someone like me. So, I'll say it again. I like Piers. I really do. I've been on the show several times. I look forward to going on again. And maybe he just doesn't understand. Maybe he's wrong. Maybe it's intentional. I don't know. But don't you get it? This is why I don't believe you. The things they were doing to these children, man. These transcripts that came out. They fill me with a rage I have never experienced. The horrors. Man, there's so much dirty stuff in this world. And you say Tommy's a con artist. Fine. Whatever. At least I can thank the con artist for letting me know. Because I would not have known about this if it were not for him.
All I know is this. If you tell somebody that Tommy Robinson is an asshole, they can believe he is an asshole. But if he has information that might be useful, even if he's an asshole, we still see him as a useful person that might be an asshole.
I know it's probably an unpopular view, but I completely agree that it is, in some areas, largely rape is committed by Muslims. Because, no, I grew up in Bradford, all right? And in that kind of environment, it is mainly Asian men, not because it's something about their culture, but because they're not getting caught. Like, I've had friends who've been raped and the police have told them that because it's an Asian man that's done it, probably not going to catch them. But it happens all the time.
What has it to do with not catching them?
I don't know. Because they're not engaged. Okay, no, the police are too scared of being called racist to do anything. Like there's just such a divide between.
So the police are scared of being called racist. Is your point? Do you lend any credence to that idea?
I don't know what planet these police are living on. If are they actually saying to people, you know, I'm just going to put the phone down now because it's an Asian person, so
that's
don't
what they
report
did.
it.
That's what they did.
I don't think that they do that. You know, I think there needs to be an adult debate about these issues. Just going back to the original question and to some of the feedback as well. You know, there is a wider debate, and I mean this really seriously. I think in Britain, as a culture, we are scared of female sexuality. We really are. And so there's a massive debate to have around that. We need a culture shift, because this whole idea that if a woman is a bit tipsy or if she's wearing a short skirt, then, you know, maybe, you know, the song Blurred Lines, there are no blurred lines, actually. Like, no means no. And, you know, rape is completely unacceptable in any context. And I think that's what we should really be talking about. And women, you know, should not be afraid in any way to express their sexuality.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important.
I think we can all agree that rape is totally unacceptable.
This is a clip from 2014. We're in 2025, and the issue is just getting worse. That's the issue.
So many of my Islamic brothers are upset with me right now. They're arguing the semantics of a post I made, explaining that people, white Christians, are going to be very Islamophobic if we do not come out in defense of young, innocent children. And they're not thinking correctly for a few reasons. One, because if we only allow Zionists to be the ones who are against the rape of children, then Zionists are going to appeal to the masses, because most people agree that little kids shouldn't be raped. And that, considering it was Muslim men who committed these heinous acts, we as Muslims should be offended and come out against them. Secondly, they're saying, oh look, but a white man raped kids too. That's not what we're talking about. People of all races and all ethnicities rape kids. What we're talking about the fact that when Muslims do it, it's covered up by a government.
And that's the point. I don't agree with Andrew with a bunch of stuff. But if I isolate the incident and we focus on this, I think he's right.
These are actually completely different subjects, but these people are too stupid to understand them. I also stood up to Piers Morgan on October 8th, the day after, and against all legal advice, made it clear that what was happening was a genocide. And I stood up on the most watched platform on the planet in the middle of a criminal case with Christian judges judging me, and I stood there defending Muslims. And this same community of Muslims then turn on me and attack me because I gave my daughter a Christmas present, because you're not supposed to celebrate Christmas. And they start saying, I'm not really a Muslim because I tried to give my daughter a Christmas present, and I need to argue with them about the Quran on my Twitter all day, and I need to reply to them, otherwise I'm afraid of them. You people are not in control of Islam at all. It's not yours. You don't own it. And I don't owe you a fucking thing. And anybody who is defending child rapists just because they're Muslims is aiding Islamophobia.
There are bad people out there that don't like certain religion, and if something bad happens that are part of a religion and nobody calls it out, they're like, yeah, don't call it out because more people will hate you. I would call out the Christian. I think Muslims need to call out their own people.
Politicians doing everything is doing. I think there is a big responsibility of the Muslim community in that, because we have tried to change the British. It is totally different now. It's nothing like Britain before. You know, it's everybody's like doing their own thing and they want to adapt everything. So this country's own culture has disappeared. And I think this is something that needs to come back if we want to be, feeling the important. Because, if the British society changed to other countries, rules and religious expectation and everything, then you cannot expect, the Britain, politicians to be British to you.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So you think Britain has been too accommodating almost?
Yes, it is. And I think this multicultural, everything coming into it has made it like the society has changed to everybody's adaptations. Yeah. Like everybody's doing their own thing, schools and everything, they're like having different kind of holidays, everybody's having different kind of, their own adaptations. And I think, if you go to Tower Hamlets Council and you want to speak to someone about, before I would go to council and I would see that they would expect and they understand me. But now they will be like, oh, in your culture it happens, so adapt to it.
Do I have to say anything more? You move from your country to a country that you think is having a better time than yours. And when you complain about something that's happening in your culture that they're trying to help you keep, they're like, hey, why do you worry? This is part of your culture. You left something that you miss, so we made sure you enjoy it here. I don't know. I don't think people that have good intentions understand what the heck they're doing with those intentions. They mean well, but they don't understand the consequence.
Don't get me wrong, ako sa kita bong puta fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam turlo keta verdeta welcome.